Yo, what's good, y'all? It's Brother Timmy here. And before I pulled off and about to head over to the crib to get some things done, actually striving to really get more into my studies, not just doing my topical readings and topical Bible studies, but I just want to just bring this topic to y'all real quick, as I believe it's vital. And I believe that the black church is doing a great disservice to young black men. And then ultimately it's a great disservice to the black woman as well. Because if we're not raising up the next generation of leaders in our community, to be rooted in the word and to strive at holiness and to be the kind of men that can lead their wives, then we're never going to create prosperous marriages, and we're never going to have that fruit, in our children. So our churches prop up the single mother so much that it makes it seem like it's normal. So these boys are growing up in these single mother homes and are going to church, but they feel like they have no significance because the pastors in these churches are gearing their messages towards the woman and towards her emotions and feelings. So what happens is the man grows up and has that same mindset towards the Most High, as he look at him as a sugar daddy, looking at the Most High like, he's somebody that's going to bless you even though you might still be living a life of sin. Certain messages that are being preached over the pulpits that don't lead to fruits of righteousness and holiness. And also just, I feel like the pointing out of certain sins of men but not women. I believe that we should be equal all across the board, because the Most High doesn't play favoritism, but we're playing favoritism in our churches. And that's something that is displeasing in the sight of the Most High. So for instance, in a lot of these churches, if somebody come in, come as you are, but you don't stay the same. There's a culture of immodesty in our churches. We got lots of sisters wearing skin-tight dresses, skin-tight clothes. What I would like to say, there's an issue, there's a legging epidemic of stretchy pants, yoga pants epidemic in our churches, where yoga pants are being worn as actual pants and not as something that can go under, a dress or a longer skirt or things like that. And not to say we legalistically, wear clothes a certain way so that we, like I said, there's don't let the dress go past a certain centimeters and people are measuring the dresses and stuff like that. I'm against that. But ultimately, just a hard posture in the women that aren't modest. And, and us men will point that out, and, over the pulpit, pastors will preach on the men's lust. And, preach that a man needs to be self-controlled, that a man needs to be this, and rightly so. But also, we can't discount the women that are being a stumbling block to their brothers, because it's also the spirit of lust that's on a woman to make her dress up a certain way. And this is something that is very wrong, because it's not being addressed, and we're just not preparing the women to be modest, preparing the girls to be modest. So the little girls are watching these women dress up this way, and some of these women dress up their daughters in this way. And scripture states that we shouldn't prostitute our daughters. And that doesn't mean making them an actual prostitute, but there's a culture of prostitution or whoredom in a lot of these, superstars, these music artists and actresses and things like that. And these are the examples that many follow in the church, in the church. So whatever the world does, the world is going to do, but I'm talking about in the church. And lastly, they're not prepping these young boys and girls for marriage. because there's a lack of marriages, nobody wants to preach on marriage. Nobody wants to speak on marriage, or, give the younger ones the tools on marriage. But they have to get younger. They have to get older and find out for themselves, So I will hope that, we can have more of a culture that promotes marriage, but in a biblical sense, in a holy way. But if you got all these people in fornication inside the church, in fornication, all the women are gearing their attention towards 1 or 2 men in the church, because they're not used to seeing qualities of a man of God. And those that have the qualities of a man of God, they may be friend zoned, because they might have the qualities, but they don't have qualities of what makes them a masculine man. Now, you need to be a masculine man. If they're not seeing their pastor stand firm on the word and the standard of the word, and stand firm on the scripture, stand firm on holiness, to point out the issues in their congregation, but they're pacifying through these words of affirmation, through these inspirational, motivational speeches, where these pastors are becoming life coaches, and even their counsel is not the counsel of the godly, but it's the counsel of the world, because they're going by worldly standards, they're going by worldly philosophies, and it pushes vanity in our women, so that they go for the same stuff that the women of the world go for. Do he have 6 figures? Is he 6 feet tall? Now, churches have to address this vanity in their churches if they're ever going to produce godly marriages. Because there might be a woman that's 5'5". Why is a woman that's 5'5" rejecting a man that's 5'7" or 5'8"? Even if a woman is 5'8" and the man is 5'9" or 5'10", that man is not too short. And even so, a lot of these women might have a husband that might be a foot or 2 shorter than them. So then the thing is, the Most High will send husbands with husband qualities to them, but they will completely reject them, because physically they're not an NBA basketball player. Now, a couple years ago, I found this thing called the delusional chart, and pretty much it calculates all of the men in America. So whatever race you want them to be, whatever height you want them to be, whatever shape you want them to be, and you start to realize most of the women want about 0.5% of men that exist in the United States. Ain't that insane, y'all? 0.5% is what the average woman will go for. And then you wonder why a lot of these women are unmarried, because their standards are too high. There's nothing wrong to have high standards according to the word, but when you have high standards according to the world standards and what worldly women want, then you realize you're not going to find that. Because in our community, a lot of our men are already locked up, and a lot of our men are homosexuals and don't even like women. So when we look at the rest, we got to go through the rest of the pick of the litter. You're not going to get anybody. So what's the best thing that you can do is fornicate. So you live this godly life, or strive to live this godly life, as you say, but you're into these sins. Rather it's fornication with a man, or rather it's fornication with these toys. Oh my goodness, the toys. That's another conversation for itself, but it's lust. So we got to point this out in our women just as much as our men, and I feel like we're doing a great disservice, because these pastors want to cater to women. And this is why our churches are failing, because we don't have enough marriages. See, marriages is what makes a ministry what it is. It's marriages itself. Oops, I passed the house. I'm just going to drive around. But I'm pretty much done with my message. I'm about to be at the crib, so I got a lot of work to handle. I got my studies to do, but hey, man, it's Brother Timmy here once again in Willie Yah Ministries. I love y'all very much, and I truly hope that you are blessed in Yahushua's mighty name. I love you all.